Think your week was bad? Try being in the year 1918, where the Spanish flu pandemic killed more people than World War I. Now that's a rough Monday morning. It's like waking up stumbling to the kitchen for a cup of coffee, only to find out that the coffee is actually a deadly virus. And not just any virus, but one that can take down more folks than a global conflict. It's like nature's way of saying, you think wars are bad? Hold my beer. But let's not get too gloomy here, we're just getting started. This is the shocking world of pandemics we're diving into, a world where microscopic invaders can cause macroscopic mayhem. So fasten your seatbelts as we embark on this wild ride through the history of humanity's battles with these invisible enemies. But hey, remember, laughter is the best medicine. Now that's a bad week, right? But don't worry, it gets worse. Forget about the Spanish flu for a moment, and let's travel back to the 14th century. The bubonic plague or Black Death was spreading faster than gossip in a small town. Now I know what you're thinking. A medieval party? Sounds like a blast. Well, let me tell you, this was one party you definitely want to skip. Picture this, you're minding your own business in 14th century Europe, when suddenly you notice a black rat scurrying about. No big deal, you think, but oh boy were you wrong. That little rat was the harbinger of doom, carrying fleas that were infected with the plague bacteria. And just like that, you've got an uninvited guest at your medieval party, and it didn't even bring a bottle of wine. The Black Death was like that one guy at the party who just doesn't know when to leave. It stuck around for a good 4 years, from 1347 to 1351, and it wasn't shy about making its presence known. This was no wallflower of a disease, it wiped out nearly 60% of Europe's population. That's right, more than half of the people were taken out by this uninvited party crasher. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you, I'm just trying to put things into perspective. Imagine if every time you flipped a coin, it landing on heads meant someone you knew succumbed to the plague. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? But hey, every cloud has a silver lining, right? The Black Death did lead to some major societal changes. With fewer people around, labor became more valuable. This led to an increase in wages and a shift in the balance of power. So, in a twisted way, the Black Death was a bit of a social leveler. So next time you're having a bad day, just remember, at least you're not living in the 14th century. Imagine a disease so deadly it killed 3 out of every 10 people who got it. Meet smallpox, the Speckled Monster. Now this wasn't your regular bad hair day kind of problem. This was the kind of problem that made kings and queens tremble on their thrones. This was the Speckled Monster that left its mark, quite literally, on the face of humanity. Smallpox, folks. A disease so dreadful it was often likened to the apocalypse itself. But here's the twist in the tale. Smallpox was an equal opportunity monster. It didn't care if you were a king or a pauper, a saint or a sinner. If it caught you, it caught you. And oh boy, did it leave a mark. People would break out in these horrific pustules that would leave them scarred for life, if they were lucky enough to survive, that is. Now let's do a little time travel, shall we? Picture this. It's the 18th century, and the Speckled Monster is running amok. But then, along comes a fellow named Edward Jenner. He's a country doctor with a hunch. He notices that milkmaids who contract cowpox don't seem to get smallpox. So, he thinks maybe there's a connection. He tests his theory on a young boy, and voila! The first ever vaccine is born. It's a bit of a gamble and a bit gross if you think about it too hard, but it works. And it turns the tide in the fight against smallpox. Fast forward to 1980. After a massive global effort, the World Health Organization declares smallpox eradicated. That's right. The Speckled Monster is no more. It's the only human disease to have been completely wiped out. That's one for Team Humanity. So, the next time you're feeling a little under the weather, just remember, it could be worse. You could be facing the Speckled Monster. But thanks to a country doctor, a cow, and a world united, you're not. So, if you're feeling speckled today, at least it's not smallpox. Ever heard of an enemy you can't see? Welcome to the world of HIV-AIDS. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about a supervillain from a comic book here. This enemy is real and it's been causing havoc since the early 1980s. The human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, and its more advanced stage, AIDS, has claimed the lives of more than 32 million people worldwide. Yes, you heard that right, 32 million. That's like wiping out the entire population of Canada. Imagine that. But here's the thing about HIV-AIDS, it's a sneaky little bugger. It doesn't come with a big flashing neon sign saying, "Hey, I'm here." Nope. It's an invisible enemy that can quietly infiltrate and weaken your immune system. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is all very grim and not terribly funny. And you're right, but let's lighten the mood a bit. Think about it. This virus is so small it can't even be seen under a regular microscope. It's got to be feeling a bit inadequate, right? I mean, it's the microscopic equivalent of showing up to a party underdressed. All jokes aside, the impact of HIV/AIDS has been devastating. But it's not all doom and gloom. The world has been fighting back. We've got antiretroviral therapy, or ART, that can help people live longer, healthier lives. And scientists are working tirelessly to find a cure. They're the real superheroes in this story. They're facing off against this invisible enemy every day, armed with their lab coats, microscopes, and a steely determination. So next time you feel invisible, remember, at least you're not a deadly virus. You're a person, capable of making a difference in this world. And who knows, maybe one day, we'll be telling the story of how we defeated this invisible enemy. Thought we were done with pandemics? Well, meet COVID-19, the new kid on the block. Now, we're not saying COVID-19 is a mischievous, hat-backwards, skateboard-riding pandemic, but it certainly knows how to make an entrance. This one showed up in late 2019 and said, "Hold my protein spike, watch this." And boy did the world watch. It's almost like COVID-19 looked at the past pandemics and said, "Pfft, amateurs." It's like that one kid in school who would always try to outdo everyone else. Only, in this case, we're talking about a virus trying to outdo its predecessors in causing global chaos. This pint-sized troublemaker didn't just cause a health crisis. Nope, it went for the full package. It changed the way we work, the way we socialize, even the way we sneeze. It's like it came with its own rulebook. Remember when shaking hands was just a polite thing to do? Now, it's akin to playing Russian roulette. And don't even get me started on hugs, those are now considered extreme sports. And then there's the mask mandate. It's like the world decided to have a never-ending masquerade ball, except this one isn't nearly as fun. And the most fashionable accessory of the year? Hand sanitizer. But let's not forget the lockdowns. Suddenly we all found ourselves with a lot of time on our hands. Time to bake bread, learn a new language, or even start that novel we've been meaning to write. So, yes, COVID-19 has certainly changed the world. But it's also shown us that we can adapt, that we can find new ways to connect, and that we can come together in times of crisis. And hey, if nothing else, it's given us a newfound appreciation for toilet paper. Who knew that would become the new gold standard? So, next time you're stuck at home, just remember, at least you're not stuck in the 14th century. And that, folks, is our whirlwind tour of pandemics. We've journeyed from the macabre merriment of medieval times to the speckled specter of smallpox, right up to the invisible enemy that had us all sporting face masks. And let's not forget the new kid on the block, making its dramatic entrance on the global stage. Yes, we've certainly had our fill of history's deadliest dance-offs. But remember, as wild and woolly as these tales can be, they serve as stark reminders of the importance of staying informed about pandemics. After all, knowledge is our best defense in a world where invisible enemies lurk. Now, if you've enjoyed this madcap journey through the annals of pandemic history, why not come along for more? Our channel is chock full of bizarre, fascinating, and downright terrifying tales from the past. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, trust me, it's healthier than a pandemic.